Everybody, Bacon here, and let's talk about Jade Golems. And we're going to talk specifically about Jade Idol, because Jade Idol and Jade Golems are something that have been getting a whole lot of attention on Reddit and Twitter and Twitch chat and all that stuff ever since the nerf to Small Time Buccaneer and Spirit Claws, which then caused sort of the rise in Jade mid range and Jade control strategies. So, after the nerf to pirates and Spirit Claws, it's like the Reddit community moved down their checklist of things we hate and was like, okay, Yogg's gone, Tuskar Totemic gone, pirates are kind of gone, sort of. What are we going to complain about next? And next on the list is Jade Golems. So to be honest, a lot of the complaints I see about Jade Golems are really disingenuous with how they do it. Like people are saying that Jade Golems completely invalidate the idea of control decks, when in reality that's not actually that true. Like for example, Jade Druid doesn't have absolutely phenomenal matchup against Reno Warlock, particularly if they are running the Leroy combo, right? In particular, what Jade preys on is those decks that have fatigue as a game plan. So I'm talking like Control Warrior and Control Priest, if anybody's ever playing that. And that's it is a bit of a problem, but it's not actually that bad. You see, the decks like Control Warrior, Control Priest, they them and Jade Druid are on opposite ends of the spectrum, where they're both very reactive classes or decks to play in the meta. If aggro is too strong in the meta, then Control Warrior becomes really good as like a safety release valve, right? If there's too much aggro, then naturally there will be more Control Warriors on the ladder. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if there's too much control, then there will be more Jade decks on the ladder, right? Why didn't we see that much like slow Jade Shaman or uh, Jade Druid on the ladder before the nerf to Small Time Buccaneer and Spirit Claws? It's because they were pushed out by the aggro. And you might say that the existence of Jade Idol means that I can never play Control Warrior, but that's not really true. Because if the meta gets to a point where there is enough aggro on the ladder to make up for the Jade Druids that you run into, then overall you will still have a very high win percentage. It's just that you have polarized matchups. It's like the freeze mage effect, where it's really good at what it's good at and really bad at what it's bad at. So the existence of the Jade mechanic and other mechanics that act as a safety valve, other decks that act as a safety valve for certain archetypes, is actually really good for the game. It's the type of thing that stops things from getting stale because the meta is able to police itself, right? Strategies change as people bring different decks. If anything, we could use more things like this. Like we could use something to punish mid range. We could use something to punish aggro, control, etc. And then we will have a constantly cycling metagame. So yeah, I'm actually really glad that the Jade mechanic exists as this corrective force on the metagame. But that's not saying that I don't have any problems with it. The main problem I have with the Jade mechanic is that it's actually just quite boring. So when the cards for Gadgetzan were being revealed, first they revealed Kazakis, and all of the Cabal cards were like based around based around creating these powerful spells, right? And singleton decks, which are a bit problematic by themselves, but the entire idea was like sacrificing some power for a really strong power later, creating these really game changing spells, and that's interesting to me. um and it sort of fits the theme of those three classes because they all have very high impact spells. Then you've got the Grimy Goons, which their mechanic was kind of a flop overall, but it was still somewhat interesting in the fact that we were exploring this design space of Mistcaller, right? And all these like hand buff style things. It also fit their classes as well because they tied it into the fact that they're all weapon classes. And the idea behind these hand buff cards is that you're equipping your minions with weapons to make them more effective in battle. Cool. Then we got the Jade Lotus, and it's just like, yeah, you get guys, and they keep getting bigger. I was like, oh god, it's just so boring. It's just there's very little interesting stuff to this. It's just like, and there's so much potential. So we looked at the what unites the Cabal classes is that they all rely on these game changing high impact spells. So they got Kazakus. The goons, they all run weapons, so they got these buff cards. And then what is the thing that unifies all three of the Jade Lotus classes? We've got Rogue, Shaman, and Druid. And the thing I could come up with that unites all of them is that they all have some sort of mechanic to cheat mana. And these mechanics are actually some of the most interesting things in all of Hearthstone, particularly Preparation and Innervate. Both extremely powerful cards, like two of the most powerful cards in the game, but they create very interesting game styles. Like there's a good reason why some of the most skilled players in the game gravitate towards playing a lot of Rogue, right? Playing a lot of Druid. Because the existence of Prep, Innervate, all these cheap spells, and all these ways of cheating mana, it creates a very high skill playstyle where you have a lot of options each turn. Now, this kind of falls apart when you throw Shaman in the mix, but they still do have some mana cheating ability through Overload. It's less of an interesting mechanic because it's kind of just like an additional cost added onto some cards, but it still does allow you to sort of cheat things out there early. So, with the Jade Lotus being the last group of cards to be released, I was really hoping for something interesting using this mana cheating mechanic, and we just got these. Your golems get bigger, and if anything, that's like the opposite of what these three classes have in common, right? All three of these classes have ways of cheating mana, but the Jade Golems themselves are very anti-tempo at first. So it's just really disappointing. And in my mind, that is the biggest problem with the Jade mechanic, in that it's just not very interesting. So I don't think it completely invalidates control. I think, as I said earlier, it's sort of like a safety valve going one way or the other. But I do think the Jade Golems are just really boring. And we'll see if with the next cards released, we'll have some more counters to the Jade style of decks to rein them in a little bit. Because I will admit that there is not really much of a counter to Jade Golems for control decks right now. But yeah, we'll see. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.